All right. You recognize these guys, or at least the one in the spotlight? That is Jared Drake Bell, star of Drake and Josh, a show that was a big, huge hit on Nickelodeon for many years. And here we are on Court TV, unfortunately talking about Jared Drake Bell tonight. That's because today he entered his guilty plea in Cleveland. We've got the hearing for you. I'm going to show you the hearing, and then we'll give you the whole backstory on how Jared Drake Bell ended up where he ended up. Take a look.
Presently on probation, parole, or post-release control?
No, Your Honor.
Having said that, how do you plead to count one? Attempted endangering children, felony of the 4th degree.
Guilty.
How do you plead to count two? Disseminating matter harmful to juveniles, 1st degree misdemeanor.
Guilty.
Let the record reflect defendant has pled guilty. The court accepts that plea. Finding was made knowingly, voluntarily, and intelligently. Sentencing is going to be deferred till July 12th at noon. The victim can provide a victim impact statement if she wishes, either by herself and through Zoom or through the witness victim advocate from the court. Additionally, counsel can file sentencing memorandums as well. Please do it at least 3 days prior to July 12th. Anything further, counsel? Very good. We'll see you July 12th. Thank you.
All right, it was quick. A lot more details probably coming out in court during the sentencing of all of this. But let me read for you a statement from the Cuyahoga County Prosecutor's Office, giving you a little bit more on the backstory and how Jared Drake Bell ends up pleading guilty today. In October 2018, the female juvenile victim, 15 years old, filed a report with her local police department in Canada regarding an incident that occurred between her and Jared Bell, 34, the previous year at a Cleveland nightclub in the East Bank of the Flats district. Canadian authorities contacted the Cleveland Division of Police, who conducted a subsequent investigation. That investigation revealed the victim, who had established a relationship with Bell several years prior, attended his concert in December of 2017. While there, Bell violated his duty of care. In doing so, created a risk of harm to the victim. The investigation also revealed that months leading up to the concert, Bell sent the victim inappropriate social media messages. He has since been charged with the following, which is what he pleaded guilty to, which was attempted endangering children, 4th degree felony, and disseminating matter harmful to juveniles, a 1st degree misdemeanor. So not a great day for Jared Drake Bell, but probably the best he could do under the circumstances. Let's bring back in Kirk Nurmi, the attorney who represented Jody Arias. You recognize him. Kirk, all right, so you're representing someone like this who is a celebrity, right? And you're pleading guilty. It's happening very quickly. What do you think is going into the whole analysis and process of determining why to plead guilty right away and not kind of, file some motions, try to get some charges dismissed and other things that attorneys can do?
Well, ultimately, I suspect the evidence is very strong. We hear about this social media trail, this long line of interaction. So I think it's one of those situations where Mr. Bell's counsel was probably advising him, you're not going to be able to get out of this. You've done certain things, inappropriate image, that sort of thing. If there's no way to get out of that, one of the best ways to do then is to think about avoiding prison, moving forward and accepting responsibility, trying to show that you're not a risk for future occurrences, and trying to move forward with a term of probation so there's not a long prison sentence involved. Because sometimes it's not just about guilt or innocence, but it's about mitigating the impact that that has on a client's life.
Right, and this is the contrast to what we were just talking about with Andre Warner, right? He at his sentencing, which is the penalty phase, he wants to get up on the witness stand and proclaim his innocence, take no responsibility for what he did, and theoretically he doesn't get the benefit of anything. It could harm him. Whereas if Drake Bell gets up on the stand or from counsel table, wherever, takes responsibility for what he did, apologizes, understands the wrongfulness of what he did, then our system of justice cuts him a break, right? That's the way it works. People are always saying, why do we give out these plea deals, and why does someone get a a longer sentence if they go to trial versus pleading guilty, I always say it's because someone who cuts a deal has accepted responsibility for their actions. The person who goes to trial generally is not accepting responsibility for their actions.
Yeah, Vinny, that's very true. I mean, we see, like to say, this acceptance of responsibility. Is he following the court-ordered conditions? He's showing that he wants to change. He wants to, act in cohesion with the court orders. He's showing everything we want someone to do. And you're right. The judicial system typically responds by granting a bit of leniency more than someone who's obstinate about their guilt until the end.
So now I want your take on what you think happened here. So you've got a young girl who goes to authorities in Canada, and Canada to Cleveland to wherever Bell is these days, because he was just in Cleveland for a concert. He doesn't live there. Are you surprised that this case was pursued, or do you think this is kind of the norm? Canadian authorities working with American authorities in a case that is a 4th-degree felony and a 1st-degree misdemeanor?
Well, I do think it's kind of the norm these days, because we see a lot of these social media apps used to entice girls that are underage into various situations, sexual situations. So I think it's probably becoming more and more common as there's more and more apps, more and more things that are happening online. More and more, we're at a dating app trial, right, is going on. So, all those things become under the scrutiny of law enforcement more and more. And when it's reported, it becomes rather easy, right? Because there's that trail. So all they need to do is subpoena the company, and the evidence is all there for the state to begin their prosecution.
Now, he's represented by Ian Friedman, who's on this program just about every week, an incredible attorney in Cleveland. We saw him in court. My guess is this deal is going to end up in some sort of a probationary sentence, right? So if it ends up in a probationary sentence, judges can put conditions on probation, right? And it can be they can be very creative in the conditions that they put on here. To me, looking at this, is this someone who should be registered as an offender? Is this someone who should be prohibited from going on apps? I mean, what sort of conditions do you think a judge could attach to probation here to serve the purpose of protecting potential future victims out there?
Yeah, Vinny, I think, staying off apps, staying off online. A lot of sex offenders are not allowed to go online. They're not allowed to use a computer, things of that nature. And one of the things we heard during that sentencing is to talk about, sentencing memorandum. And those memorandums are going to include some things, maybe some risk assessments, some evaluation, showing where he went wrong. There'll probably be ties to treatment, that sort of thing. Ties to, different programs that he has to go to based on what those risk assessments reflect, that are designed anyway to prevent him from any future occurrences of this nature. And that's ultimately going to be the goal of a probationary term.
Here's the other part of the problem, though, specifically for Jared Drake Bell, is that he's a star in a Nickelodeon show. And I think that show is still kind of replaying, and he's doing personal appearances and concerts, and there still may be a lot of young fans out there of Jared Drake Bell. Should the court deal with that at all in terms of what he can and can't do in terms of contacting potential fans out there?
Certainly they can do that. They can put restrictions all the way up and into no internet access, no use, no social media, that sort of thing, to prevent this exact thing from happening again. So the answer to your question is yes, the court can be very stringent on him, because this could be considered a modus operandi of how he accesses these women. So
not women, girls, Kirk.
Girls, you're right, I misspoke. Young women, Vinny,
young
thank
women,
you.
yep. Absolutely.
Thank you for that. But ultimately, that's exactly what the court will probably do to prevent this from happening again.
Should be a fascinating sentencing. July 12th, again, is the date on that. We'll keep track of it here. Kirk Nurmi, always great to have you on the show. Thanks so much.
Great to see you, Vinny.